Oh, I never wanted to believe it. But as exhausted as I am, as much as I wanted to sleep today, I was again woken up by invasive thoughts. And I completely understood at that moment, in a moment, the entire thing, the pattern disruption, why the disclosure is so seeming to be like in an immediacy sort of prime directive. Like if you get the feeling like I do that there are those many who know it all and they just can't talk about it because it's so devastatingly like hideous, right? It's incarnate people. It's disincarnate people. And it's a technological interface, a business venue between what we consider the liminal. It's been written about, charted, talked about. It's the last thing. Like I've never jumped on the alien bandwagon, and I've never jumped on the apparitional ghost bandwagon ever. I've stated my experiences. I've stated what rationally I've been through, and all the countless attacks that I've been through. And I see us as I wrote a whole article up about this because I couldn't sleep. It's not really an article. It's just like 20, 40 minutes of exhaustion, me just trying to write down. And I wonder, is there this come to the altar, come to the pulpit, come to the confessional moment required? Although I'd be the first to say that it's an invasive technology that's seen from the targeted individual perspective. From a biblical perspective, it's looked at as demonic. People who are trying to work with it could be called shamanic. When you get into sex distinction of whether it's a female practitioner or a male, it's called witchcraft or druidism, wizardry, warlock. These are all very distinct. And I do think that there's a business being run here, a channel between worlds. I do. In fact, you could look at Solomon and Solomonic magic, Enochian, and you can see this as like Jason Reza Giorgiani offers a lot of really good insight, and I feel like he's being put on an intentional chopping block, and he can feel the fire licking at his heels. I used to think, oh, this is one entity, and then I began to realize that all the times in my childhood where I felt invaded, even though the mechanism of delivery, the dark, pervading, cancerous distortion, that's how it feels. It feels, you can almost see this force, this entity, right? And it kind of feels the same in anxiety. It sets off anxiety and affects your bioelectrical, it disrupts your thoughts and your general countenance. I would get attacked when I was in class as a child. I'm sitting there simply trying to study math, and this loud buzzing, and this invasive, penetrating entity, like is it something? Imagine something like right in your face, but then it's inside you, and you feel it, and you have this anxiety, and it's setting off every nervous system and alarm in you, and there you are, just being perceived and looked at like nothing to see here. Later in life, I began to take it on, and through very successful parts of my life, it would still be there, and I realized this is how easily we are interfaced by entities that really disincarnate. Dare I say the other side? We're not here for long, folks. This is just a passage. We fuck up. I mean, we are naked in the filth of all our shit and piss. We're paid to band-aid over and put on this ruse, but in this age of the disclosure, it's like, sort of like it wants a mass number of people. I think there's going to be a cataclysmic event or a mass sacrifice. I think everyone from Elon Musk to Trump knows this. And I think that they also know that it's unavoidable. That this is how things work. And I don't think we're stopped. These skits they're talking about, even Faraday cages, may actually be a viable solution in order to develop technology. And the use of light speed and ultrasonic weaponry. I think there's something that's been ruling for a very long time on the other side, dictating the channels and the flow through. and anticipating. I think it's toying with us. I don't think there's any stopping it. And I think that when we think that we're being attacked by a singular entity, it's the fact that, like window shoppers, where entirely your children, the entire world here that you see around you is like you can fit it on like a glove from the other side. Every criminal, every politician, every good Christian is seen 100% is what they are. I think Robert Bigelow being shut down by this ever smaller minded Joe Rogan. I think Robert Bigelow knows it. I think he's aware of it. I think everybody in government, I don't think this is a secret. I don't think it's being kept back, and I think it's seen as an imminent threat. And it's kind of like whatever entity is in charge there, I believe there is. Whether or not it's this like this Promethean conceptualization at the very top, I don't know those things. I'm not going to pretend to. I only know how these entities or these disincarnate people have interacted with me and invaded my life, my countenance, when I'm rationally going about business. And after a while, you just get burned out. You can't keep up the facade anymore, especially when you're aware and you're developing yourself. Like the way that the transparency of what we're really doing, where our energy really is 100% how we're seen on the other side. Like they can interface with us at ease. And I felt the delivery has been the same, like this cancerous, bleak, dark, sort of white noise, but it's not white noise, it's more like black noise, static, that you can see if you really close your eyes. Almost bending and contorting as if it's a ganglionic mass or an octopus, not to put octopus down, but they're odd creatures, as are spiders, right? And I felt completely different when I'm really breaking it apart and not reacting. This is a portal, this is a doorway, this is a way through. And I think some of us are more sensitive to it. But more than that, I think that there are players here that you could be, to be cliche, you could consider NPC players. You can look at them in a variety of different ways, but they are basically inside plants, if you will, right? And I think that that's the hint with Disclosure Day with Steven Spielberg and what he's been discussing in all his interviews. Like, why does he even need to do interviews, right? Why is he out there campaigning? Why is he putting forth the distribution of this message, right? And they're not saying it's alien. Nobody's saying that. I mean, if you want to get into what alien is it alien to us or is it us, right? And is it more comfortable to talk about people from the future instead of disincarnate people? And the fact that there's probably an expiry on our heads once we are past. And we both live in the codified system of the pattern of the space that we took up. And when we talk about space, it's not necessarily point in time, but it is. Being that these entities can at will, it seems, interface and interact with us. And maybe the reason that it's done in such haste is that only those who have the conviction or the vigor to get away for a brief moment and jump into us, right? That the business model is going to discover them, whatever policing agent or martial agency that exists on the other side, who's linked in with them, Vatican, Malta, you name it, all the religions. And all the religions talk about this story. Like, it's the same exact story over and over again. It's kind of like, you better watch your P's and Q's, you're being watched, there are demons, they're going to come into you. But it only hints at things that we talk about broadly and largely, but we don't really talk about it in a mature fashion. Like, we're not taking this approach where we're going, okay, through all practicality, let's really put on this cap of, what if we're not talking about aliens? Maybe there is still an alien present, but let's put this to the side. Presence. Let's talk about the disincarnate. Let's stop fancifully talking about conjuring or having seances and speaking to the dead. Let's go beyond the disparate mysticism aspect of it and really, in truth, come to this and go, we are only here for a very short period of time, right? And I don't know if Ian Stevenson and his work, I saw that Jason Rezzatorjani posted something about that to that effect, along with mentioning 3 other people that he considers philosophers. And when he uses that term philosophy, I think that he's talking about this matriculation of the mind when he uses that term, where you have contributors to the big question: what the fuck's going on here? How are we so easily accessed? Why are some of us accessed more than others? Sometimes to a full-time deployment. What is it those people are saying? What is the message of delivery? What is the general theme, right? And what are these aliens? What is going on in inner Earth? What is going on the moon? What is space really? What is the Earth really? Right? What are we really in all our ephemeral, finite detail? And when we look at another thing Jason Rezzatorjani is talking about is the word demon. I've heard this breakdown many times, but it's refreshing to see it being brought up again. And in past interviews, I hear this from he and several different people. Jordan Maxwell would be one person who brought that up continuously. And even though Michael Tsarian was an early adherent, advocate of Jordan Maxwell, He didn't really cling to that sort of Fortean notion. I wrote up a whole huge article that I just got burned out because I was using AI to do some editing, and it completely slipped in a passage that I should have been more watchful of, that took Saadi, the Zoroaster, and instead implemented an Islamic character. And I thought, can I work this into the storyline? And it's like, I'm not making any treaties with Islam. In fact, I feel very dark energy from that, always have, and I've tried to think past that. But as I've gone in and looked at the religion, there's just no way I'm going to make any sort of alliances with that. And I feel very similarly about Christianity. It doesn't assist you on your way. It creates a dogma, and it says, don't look past this. When all signs point to, if you're more intelligent, you're going to develop yourself, you're going to develop your soul, you're going to practice these principles, and you're going to learn why this is so important and what this universe really extends into and what it's really all about. And it's all coded in the Bible, right? I don't know. It's this rotation about this culminating violence, and this violent acquisition, and that disturbs me. But at the same time, if that is part of me, if that is part of who and what I am, I need to see all of it, right? I need to see all of it. I need to be all of it in order to find out who and what I am, and how. I mean, I know that there's a point where we're going to no longer be with body, no longer have Google, no longer being, constrained by time, but also able to use this, even though we're under heavy attack by this impending other side, right? And throughout, I mean, I just wonder, I wonder, have these elites known about this all along? Is this their apprehension and adherence toward using certain metals, right? Gold, having a huge amount of gold around it, like other than, or copper, silver, platinum, crystals, diamonds, emeralds, right? To build with certain solid materials with very little gaps in between for specific purposes that have more to do with the spiritual aspects of this whole thing. And the reason I don't do YouTube is because it's like, I can sit down even when I'm exhausted and come up with, formulate a coherent sentence, but it's very difficult for me to, maybe if I was talking to somebody and I was shooting back and forth concepts and ideas, right? But I don't know, it loves to deface, it loves to defame. And when I say it, I think that it's different people or entities coming through the same medium, the same portal. And I don't think it's some difficult mystical thing for it. I think it can walk up from wherever it is and see everything around us and interact with us and just slip its way in as if it's just trying on a garment or a piece of clothing. And I think that the reason this doesn't happen more often isn't because of some angelic host or some heroic entity, policing agent, marshalling agent on the other side that's protecting anyone. I think it's simply because the registry of light and the interaction with bioelectricity, most people are droll and banal and boring. And once you're developing yourself, then it takes notice. It's almost like it wants to be in energy, right? It's almost as if we're capable of learning here because we're accessing some sort of nuclear force interface that's not only, with respect to taking in electromagnetics into account, but the very negative, darker aspects of this that exist in the liminal, if you want to call it dark matter, inverted energy, I don't know. But the black sun may exist there, right? What we can't see in the light spectrum here, that may have such a gravity and produce such a gravity well that death itself just sucks everything into it, right? That death is kind of like life, right? Because it's more of a permanent state. I mean, even though we know that entropy is very correlated and tied to chaos here, we relish it because it's life, right? And when we get into neg entropy and we start to postulate, well, what if there was this equilibrium or stillness? We start to realize, oh man, everything from the volatility of the markets to the agitation and the spinning on a quantum level, and cellular distribution, right? This geometrical agitation of light and metabolism, the juxtaposition of intelligence and language model acquisition and insight and intelligence is tied so closely directly to agitation. And that this agitation actually, when attempting to master this, makes us like this blinding rushlight on the other side, right? We have to keep going, we have to keep trying, but either way we can't win, and the only thing that we really have any control over, if any, is the pure principles that we adhere to and practice. And yeah, puts a bullseye, a red dot on your head on the other side and here. I mean, we are attacked by way and through these entities, by other people. They jump into other people's bodies at will, attack us. We've all been through it. You're supposed to be you're supposed to go through this sort of cognitive dissonance and this shock, post-traumatic stress, that you forget about those things, but these act as anchors, access points, if you will. Anyway, not sure that even came out right, but it's all the same. Disclosure, targeted individuals, aliens that disincarnate. It's really all the same damn thing.